You know, I have coaching spots open right now. And it's not just for celebs, execs, or people who you might assume it's meant for. It's meant for you. Book your free consultation with the team at jeffreymarsh.com/coaching. This is your sign. On this episode of Inner Voice.
So while I thought I was dumb, I also thought a lot about how it felt to ask my mother a question. Anytime I asked her a question, it was like she won the Academy Award for motherhood. She would just get so excited. Oh, well, that word you don't know, it's from the Latin. And so I knew that asking questions pleased my mother.
That's interesting. How many conversations have you been in, no shade, where you can tell the other person already has their point prepared before they've actually listened to you? Like, you can see it on their eyes and their body language. You can tell that they're ready to jump on you before you've actually finished. Therefore, they're not actually even listening.
And we all do things that, sometimes we repair. And that's part of being human.
Well, now I know I'm eternal. That is wild to go from atheist, I think we go poof at the end of this, to, I'm eternal. Cool. I mean, that changes the game in many ways in terms of I feel like I have a whole lot less fear. And I also feel like, though as an atheist, I was a very joyful person and a loving person and compassionate person, not to say that you can't be those things. I think the stereotype of atheists is something I wanted to be like, look, I'm not that.
In conversation, in relationships, a question isn't just a pathway to the answer. It's a pathway to connection, and therefore like a, horseshoe, boomerang. It's a pathway to understanding yourself. Understanding humanity, but of course you're human too. I am so excited today. We're gonna dream, we're gonna scheme, we're gonna have love in our lives. We're gonna get deep with Chion and talk about. So Chion is the host of Audacious, which is on Connecticut Public Radio. But what I really love about her is that she is an excellent questioner. And so we're going to talk about what it is like to be the questioner, what it is like to open people up. But I'm turning the tables, of course, which I love.
What show is this?
This is... Are you being producer Russ right now?
Yeah.
Welcome to Inner Voice, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Marsh. Was that smooth?
I loved it. And I'm Zach Latino. Yeah.
I'm a best-selling author, Oprah endorsed, 3 billion views on social media, and I studied Zen for 25 years. And I am here to help you take that nasty, gunky, crunky, skunky inner voice and undermine your relationship with it so that you can love yourself, love life, be at peace. You know those things. How's your non-binary life, Zach?
It's non-binary. It's in the cracks. It's in between. It is the crack, and it's the sidewalk on top.
It's both up and down.
Don't step on, or you'll break your mother's back. Did you ever do that? Don't step on a crack, or you'll break your mother's back.
Okay, number one, grew up on a farm, so not nary a sidewalk to even try.
Okay.
But number two, so lived in fear, I never would have tried to, harm.
Well, don't
Mom.
step on the soil, or you'll break your mother's toil. This episode was
I thought you were gonna say boil.
remarkable. We talk about the affect of question. We talk about what it means to question. We talk about Chion's relationship with her mother that started with her ability to ask really deep and interesting questions and how she got that parental verification from that, which led her to, that's her job now, right? Is with Connecticut Public Radio. That's her job, is to be a professional questioner, which talk about one of the best 360s of all time. That's a Seinfeld episode. That's a full circle, right? In real life.
Yeah, so we're famous for having done the interview first, and so now we're sort of like before the interview on the timeline of the show, but we're meta, we're talking about the interview. But I think it's one of the best conversations I've had in a really long time. because it was deep and it was real and it was raw, as we say. But as usual, I have some reminders for the community. Curiosity is the opposite of certainty. And just make sure that curiosity is not, in your mind, is not parked in the same parking space as fear. That it's dangerous to be curious. It's not. It's actually quite a beautiful human trait. We stop building spiritual walls when we stop being afraid to ask questions. So again, this relationship between fear and questioning, we want to be able to be fearless and be open to seeming like we don't know, because guess what? We don't know. And lastly, the best conversations aren't just informational, they're not just transactional, they're transformational for everyone. And you have to be vulnerable to get the good stuff.
Well, let's launch right in. Well, my tongue tie.
Launch right in.
My tongue tie is at a new time high. Let's launch right in.
Okay,
and welcome
let's.
Chion Wolf to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm such a big fan of your show and all y'all do. So thank you for having me.
Ah, Chion, now tell me about being audacious. Tell me, okay, let's start first. What is the worst thing the voice in your head ever said to you? And how do you audaciously transcend that today?
I love this question because it came right in. It made my heart skip a beat, which is also how we choose our show ideas. I could tell the look
on your face if people see the video. Where is this going, Jeffrey?
I know.
It's going there.
I love feeling. So that brings up the first thought was, you're not smart enough. And I think I had good reason to think that because academically I did terribly. School was difficult. I almost didn't graduate. I dropped out of college. So I grew up thinking that I was dumb. Now that's not true, obviously. But in some ways it was because I did so terribly in the academic sense. And my big brothers, I have 3 big brothers, they were all great in school. So, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So while I thought I was dumb, I also thought a lot about how it felt to ask my mother a question. Anytime I asked her a question, it was like she won the Academy Award for motherhood. She would just get so excited. Oh, well, that word you don't know, it's from the Latin. And so I knew that asking questions pleased my mother while I felt dumb. So I grew up with these two things sort of combating each other. And so when I felt dumb, I would just ask my mom a question and I would feel like if I was dumb, at least I was doing something good for the world. And that led itself into when I started this internship at Connecticut Public.
Wow.
It was my job all of a sudden to ask questions. And it just completely blossomed into what it is now. Like now, not only did I have to ask questions in order to do my job, but I had to anticipate what other people might not know and ask questions on their behalf. And so when I think about questions, I think about not only how important the right ones are, but how important it is to receive them with love and care and excitement, and to make the person, if you can, make the person who's asking feel like a superhero for having revealed that they didn't know.
Yes, asking questions is a form of attention, a form of respect, a form of kindness. And you made the connection already that to ask a question makes someone feel like the expert. And every single person is the expert in their own lives, in their own experience. Lots and lots of people want to know how they can be good cis allies to non-binary people. And I always advise people, well, talk about your experience. That you value human respect, you value kindness, you value letting people, be themselves, even when we may not understand them. There are lots of things you can talk about without being an expert in our culture or whatever. And so to me, you're constantly through CPR, Connecticut Public Radio, you're giving people the chance to feel seen on the deepest level. And you know what I get from you? Safety.
Thanks.
You know, sometimes when we're young people, when we're being programmed, it's not safe to be seen. It's like if you're talking about something like being seen as dumb or having as an issue, you know, and I'm big quotes around the word dumb, obviously.
Certainly.
Right, being told that you are and being seen that way, it can be dangerous to be vulnerable. And it can be dangerous to be seen, and yet you've created the inverse. You've created where it's a show, but also an environment. And this is also you walking around the earth. You are a walking safe space for people to be seen.
Thank you. That means a lot. And I can't help but thank my mother, because every time I asked that question, not only was it safe, it was like Disney World, a psychological Disney World of excitement and roller coasters of, oh, this means, and this comes from the Latin, and did you know the origin of this? And pleasing our parents, you know, that's an innate thing that we want as children, which is why it's so painful when you don't get it. But when you have, and then so that makes me pull my camera back and I think, well, Audacious, we talk with a lot of people about difficult things. Not every episode, but sometimes we talk about really sensitive stuff. And in our conversations, Jessica Severin D. Martinez, who produces the show, she's not even in the room because we need it to be one-on-one because it's so intimate. And I need them to feel safe so that when I ask a question that cuts close, they know that it's just us. They know everyone else is going to hear it, but they know it's just us right now. And that they are, as you said so beautifully, the expert in their own experience. And so hopefully when those questions are asked, they know it's asked with love and a lot of respect so that they can open up and maybe go to that place that they have never gone to before. And yet another power of questions.
Okay, so I have to ask a question that cuts deep. We put quotes around a voice in your head. And you stop me whenever I've gone off the rails. Quote, you're dumb, end quote. But we've already identified it has to do with being seen as dumb. So this feeling of there's a standard out there and I need to act in XYZ way. Oh, side street to our conversation, using your traumatic background to create talents that you enjoy without shame as an adult. Do you know what I mean? That's what I do. It's like, I'm a safe space too. That's how I can recognize it in you, right? And I am a safe space because I had trauma in my background. I don't want anyone else to experience that.
That's right. That's right. And it automatically gives you this insight into the delicacy of the conversation and also the trust in it as well. And when you ask those questions, that those questions are meaningful. They're not, there were times earlier in my career where I hadn't been through anything really deeply traumatic. That came a little later. I had my big nuclear explosion in my life. But before that time, sometimes I would ask questions sort of like a bull in a china shop. Right? I'm curious. I'm going to ask you. No one else asks you. So here you are. What do you think? And now that I've been through tough stuff too, whether it happens earlier in your life or later, there's a certain, there's an awareness and a sensitivity that it might be subtle, but it's in your presence as you ask that question, as you even come up with the question in the first place. Jeffrey, because your line of work, you must also, maybe I shouldn't be assuming, but I want to know from you, when you have a question that scares you to ask, how do you open your mouth and put the words out? Are there times that you don't? Or do you ask it because it scares you?
Are you turning the tables?
Yes.
On me? On my own show? Let me turn them right back on you. Scared of what? Can you be more specific?
Scared of asking a question. Like, has there ever been a time where you have a question loaded and you're going to ask it, but you're afraid of offending the person. You're afraid of overstepping the boundaries. Has that ever happened?
I can't think. Maybe this is a bad thing. I can't think of a time.
No, I think it means you're doing the right job.
Because they will let me know. Life
and
will
you'll
give
trust them that they'll let you know. Yeah.
Life will give me the feedback, and we all do things that, sometimes we repair, and that's part of being human. And I long ago gave myself the peace to just do it and find out what happens.
Right. Just
and I sense you're like that too.
It's true. It's true. I haven't not asked the question, but there certainly have been times in an interview where I had to take a deep breath. One time that comes to mind was I interviewed this amazing person named David Myers. He was a physician, 54 years old, and he was diagnosed with glioblastoma. And he talked with us about what it's like knowing your death is imminent. And there were, as you can imagine, that show was full of difficult questions. And even difficult things to say, like goodbye. Like saying goodbye to him at the end of that episode was unlike any other goodbye of a conversation I've ever had. But one question that I wanted to know was, what do you hope your last meal will be? And for some reason, I really hesitated before asking. It's just, I've never asked it before. You think about it, you talk about it, like when you're just kidding around with your friends, but to really ask somebody who is approaching that last meal. He said dark chocolate. He loves dark chocolate. And after the show aired, he was still alive to hear it. And he shared it with his friends and family and colleagues. And we reconnected right before he died to say goodbye again. And he said that after the show aired, he got what he called a lifetime supply of dark chocolate sent to him from all around the world. And that was just a beautiful consequence of asking that question.
Okay, so we don't get the good stuff unless we're willing to be vulnerable.
That's it.
And being vulnerable sometimes means risking looking away that the voice in our head does not want us to look. So to return to the theme, your voice wants you to not seem, again, quotes around it, dumb, and it's in relation to other people. Right. So my voice is telling me don't be too queer, constantly. But that's something that's in relation to other people. I'm just sitting at home reading a book and it wants me not to be too queer. It's like a 24/7 thing, right? But generally it's because there's a risk in seeming too queer to others. So you've done a lot of work and you've transcended that voice, and you do ask questions that it would say are unacceptable. How'd you get there?
Great question, Jeffrey.
Thank you. I'm a pro.
Yeah, you do this for a living.
Mashed potatoes and gravy, by the way. Vegan.
Oh.
That's my last meal. Mashed potatoes and gravy. Mushroom gravy.
Mushroom gravy.
On vegan mashed potatoes.
Did you ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind? There's that scene with the mashed potato.
Oh, yeah. Builds it out of mashed potatoes.
Something. Yeah. It's important. I think that the benefit of having a mother who got excited at my questions, combined with working at Connecticut Public Radio, among who I saw as super smart people. In that newsroom, I'm surrounded by people who've been doing this, asking questions for decades, right? Maybe they went to Columbia Journalism, but maybe they've been just doing this for so long that this is no big deal and it comes naturally to them. And they don't see themselves as dumb. And I remember thinking, well, I have to at least not embarrass my coworkers when I'm out getting what we call vox pop, which is when you go out on the street and you ask a bunch of people the same question. Let me at least not embarrass my coworkers. And as my work increased, I got interested in asking my own questions. I ran the board for all the shows, so I was a tech producer, and I was around these shows all the time, but I was never the one asking the questions. I heard a lot of great questions from a lot of great journalists, which also helped inform how my wiring was going. But I think having the institution of public radio, my coworkers I respected, my mother who still gets excited when I ask her what a word means, helped me realize that if I have my own show, if I do my own work, and there were other projects that I had outside of the radio station before Audacious, because I was so impatient to have my own work and ask my own questions. Once I stepped into that world of creating my own shows, then it was all bets are off. This is my own thing now. I hate the word brand, doesn't feel good or right, but I don't know what other word to use. I started an advice show called Asking for a Friend, a storytelling show called The Mouth Off, and a poetry event called Other People's Poems. And all of them relied on other people showing up and me reacting to them in real time with no preparation. So I sort of threw myself into the deep end, not being able to research, not being able to be an expert, and having to rely on, oh, I don't understand, so let me just ask a question. And it worked. And people got emotional and people got excited, which doesn't necessarily answer your question because that's still other people.
I was going to point that out. I was ready to jump in and say, what was the internal process? That's what I'm looking for. Because you were inspired by all these things, or held up, or given the opportunity.
Sure, to practice. It's true.
Right.
Jeffrey, I want to tell you, I transcended it. I don't think about it anymore at all. I am 100% confident. I'm good to go. But the fact is, I think part of my feelings of inadequacy and fears of not appearing smart may be part of why I'm so fired up about leaning into my own ignorance and asking the question. So I don't have
really
that
important.
land the plane answer for you.
Yeah. No, say that last part again.
I don't have that land the plane answer for you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is important to me. You use, unless I heard it incorrectly and you correct me, you have begun to use the internal process as inspiration to keep going. So many people make the mistake of needing to defeat their negative self-talk. Like, I'm going to go to battle, I'm going to slay it, I'm going to defeat it, but then you're just constantly in this fight. A voice says you're too queer, and you're like, I'm not, you're just like in this like fight all the time. And what you're talking about is, there's that voice again. I really have valuable work I need to be doing. I'm going to go do it. Yeah.
By the way, I have a siren in the background. Should we pause for a second?
We love it. No, my old joke is like, well, there's my ride.
Oh, great. And hopefully we're gonna wait on the ice cream truck. My dog will bark. If we're lucky, my cat will hot up here. It's gonna be great. Okay, great. I'm sorry to interrupt the flow.
It's real life. That's what people want. That's what people expect.
Great.
So tell me about your life falling apart utterly. Completely, sure. 100%. Because, let's talk about timing. So in the span of about you found out that everything was changed.
So the nutshell version is that shortly after getting married to my wife, we'd been together for 5 years. She began having an ongoing affair with the next door neighbor, the woman next door. Shortly after my stepfather died, it was, and I had suspicions, and so that was the explosion. And I grew up as a little gay kid.
Whoa. That wasn't the explosion. When you found out was the explosion.
When I found out was the explosion. Yes.
Right. So it happened in an instant.
Yes.
How'd you find
out? So funny thing, I used to be a total atheist. Anti-woo crusader. I mean, I'd roll my eyes so far back I'd sprain them. And
woo-woo California, that's what my mom would call it.
Woo-woo California. And so as this was happening, as the affair was happening, I was having prophetic dreams. I was having coincidences and serendipity it was almost like something was trying to like turn my head to look, because it was so unbelievable. She wasn't the type to do something like this. I would never have married someone who could have done something like this. It was just so out of character and unexpected. And my stepfather had died in February of 21, and we had had a difficult falling out after the 2016 election, like many families did. And for the final 5 years of his life, we didn't speak. Even at his deathbed, at his death, we didn't speak. And I was on the couch weeping because I knew we'd gotten divorced for other reasons. And I had suspected the affair, and I heard his voice, but I heard his voice transcended from his body. And it was almost like a version of him I'd never met before, but I knew it was him. And I realized that I hadn't been able to mourn his death because this began right after his death. And I just said, I'm sorry, and I love you, and thank you. And I'm just weeping. At first I was weeping over her, and then I was weeping over him. And then, but he was a prosecutor, by the way, a senior assistant state's attorney. Mm-hmm. So a detective. So
you're
as
telling
I'm
me
weeping,
his ghost told you she was having an affair?
As I'm weeping, he says, you know, you never looked at the call logs. He didn't say call logs, he said it just like how he would say it in real life. You know, you never looked at the call logs.
It's like an episode of Law and Order, the Lutz. You never looked at them.
So I sit up and I run over to my computer, and that's when I see 54 hours of phone calls between them in a month, and I've got my calendar in my phone, and I'm like that the guy from It's Always Sunny, that meme where he's like got the lines behind him, and he's like this and this and this and that happened, and I'm like coordinating all the texts and the phone calls, and it's painting a terrible picture. And so I asked her to call me, and
except you only have one string from the call logs to the affair
to what's in the call logs.
I'm a little confused because there's only 31 days in most months. Over 54 hours?
Yeah.
In 1 month. Yeah, that's suggestive, isn't it?
Yes, that's one word. That's one word among other bits of evidence in the call logs and other things. So my dead stepfather's ghost told me to look at the call logs. So a lot's happened, and that was monumental. And it's been 4 years now, and I want to be like, no, I'm fine now. And I've grown a lot. It changed. There wasn't any, like a pandemic, there wasn't anything this affair didn't touch in my heart and soul. Mm-hmm. But somehow, and I'm not trying to paint a picture that like, oh, I never think about it anymore and I'm fine. And no, my heart never races. And no, that's not true. It was a huge deal. And I have become somehow even more compassionate, somehow amazingly even more trusting, because I know that when the next hard thing happens, for the first time in my life, I know that I can handle it and I can make the most of it. And there's so much to learn from a catastrophe, as you know, as anyone who's been through a catastrophe knows. And you don't know that if you've never been through one. And I hadn't been through one. So going into this, I didn't know that I could suck from the marrow of it and get amazing things, along with a lot of pain, sure. But the growth that came from it is tremendous. Right. And
you're not attempting to, what's that called? Toxic positivity.
Not at
your
all.
Way out. Like, I learned so much. I would do it again. And I would do it 3 more times. No. You're saying life has pain in it, and sometimes the pain seems senseless.
Until you make sense of it.
Until there's a day when it seems like life is taking care of you. Now, if people are listening, and they're in a painful situation, we're not telling you to get over it. That is not the message here. But I want to walk through that process because it seemed rich to you to get specific. Because obviously it wasn't instant when you went from, I'm in terrible pain over this thing, to, oh, I know what the lesson is. And actually, you may not even be there yet to really have a clear, 4 years doesn't seem like a long enough time to me, right? So you may not even be in a totally clear place about it.
Sure.
And what was the main message? So if we go back to self-talk, what was the voice telling you about the affair and what it meant about you?
I grew up a gay kid who thought she was ugly. So I knew lowercase n, but in my heart, capital, or K, canoe. I felt like no one would ever want me. As a friend, as a person, I had high self-esteem. But as a lover, as a possible romantic partner, that will never happen for me. And I just resigned myself to it.
Yes.
And
Okay, wait, I want you to be
Sure.
specific. There was a
Sure.
voice in your head saying,
Nobody
proves it.
will ever
That's
want
it.
you.
"You're ugly.
No one will want to
Nobody
kiss
will
you.
want you."
No one will want to hug you, let alone marry you. No one could marry me anyway. It was the 80s and 90s. Like, wouldn't even be legally possible. So, like, my government
Right.
was the voice in my head too, saying, "This is not for you. Sorry, you don't
Yes.
get this. You don't get this." And in the meantime, you and I and everyone else are watching all the romantic movies and listening to all the songs that everybody else gets.
Yeah.
Right. Except we get to have the ones where we don't
Straits.
get the love. Yeah. Where it's unrequited. We get those. We're into those. Those check out. We see ourselves in those songs and those movies. So that was hardwired into me. That voice was saying, no one will ever want you.
And
then
this proves it.
And this proves it.
You were about to clean it up, but I want to stay in the mess for a second. Nobody will ever love you, and this proves it. Nobody will ever want you, and this proves it. And also, I think I heard, you're ugly, and this proves it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, number one, the first thing that occurs to me is we would never say that to another person outside of us. But it goes on in our head, and that seems natural and appropriate and correct and true. And that thing in our head, that entity, some would say Satan, some would say the evil voice, some would say it's got a lot of names. But whatever that thing is, that energy, it will add and amplify and multiply painful situations. Like, we're talking about a level of cruelty that is nearly off the charts. You are already in pain. You're mourning the loss of a relationship. You're mourning your dad. And what does that thing have to say? Oh, well, this proves you're ugly. I mean, ridiculous. If we had an outside person like that in our lives, we'd be gone. We'd be out of that relationship. We'd be like, no.
And they would be seen as a monster. And what are you talking?
Exactly.
And of course not. But when it's inside your own head,
right?
Yeah, it's completely different. It has this authority, whether you want it to or not. And that's, I guess, another question. But that's the other part of it. What's that?
Go ahead. The other part of it. Go ahead.
Well, it makes me think about how, in some ways, when we look at being the victim of anything and telling ourselves victim stories, even when it's counter to that voice, it still is some sort of crutch that we lean on, right? Like when I talk about this story, and I love talking about it because I love what came after, right? Like it really,
Yeah.
But there is a part of me, and especially early on, that loved telling it because it felt so good to be the victim, to have had something go so wrong to someone who was so kind and so good and so pure. Like, I know I didn't deserve it, but it happened to me. And then I think if I tell the story, then when it happens to other people, then they'll know that they didn't deserve it either. And at the same time, there's a voice saying, you deserved it. It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. There's 10,000 things of what I just said, I know, but it really speaks to the fact that we, in these heads and hearts of ours, are in many ways up against this internal system that just wants to lock things down and be sure of things. God forbid we're not sure of something. If I'm at least sure I'm not lovable in a romantic sense, then I can rest. Then you know what? I don't have to worry about it happening.
Ooh, my teacher at the monastery used to say, what do you get out of it?
That's right. Yeah.
I get who I am. Who am I? I'm the queer one that everybody hates. That's me. And there's like a safety and a comfort in knowing that, at least. And I'm just talking about my process. You share what your process is like. But it tames the universe down into, who am I? I'm the one that's hated. That's too queer for everyone. But the universe is much more chaotic, much bigger than that, and much more out of control than that. Tell me about your faith now, your spirituality. Last thing. Lift, redemption, inspiration. Hit it.
Well, now I know I'm eternal. That is wild to go from atheist. I think we go poof at the end of this to, I'm eternal. Cool. I mean, that changes the game in many ways in terms of I feel like I have a whole lot less fear. And I also feel like, though as an atheist, I was a very joyful person and a loving person and compassionate person, not to say that you can't be those things. I think the stereotype of atheists is something I wanted to be like, look, I'm not that. Because I think some stereotype of atheists is that they're miserable or they're short-sighted, or and I don't believe that. But I know that's just like we think about queerness. Like, you're the queer one. There's a stereotype of you, and you're like wrestling with what that means and whether even that's true. But I think now that I believe in more, I see magic everywhere. I allow myself to ask for signs, which I'm still getting used to how it feels to hear me say things like that. It's like I'm wearing a whole new outfit. But I feel like I'm more in touch with the magic around me. And the more I notice it, the more I notice it, and the more it happens. And because of what I experienced with the affair and everything that happened afterwards, I feel like there's this great quote that I love, I think more than any other quote. And it's by Pema Chodron. And it says...
Is it from When Things Fall Apart?
Is it from When Things
That's
Fall
one of
Apart?
Pema's books.
I know.
You don't have to know. Lay the quote on me.
When it happened, by the way, I got like, the many horse women of the apocalypse. Like, people gave me books about, like, from Mary Oliver and Pema Chodron and Glennon Doyle and stuff like that. But this is one quote by Pema Chodron that I think really summarizes what this feels like. Only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over to annihilation can that which is indestructible in us be found. And I don't think I know I'd never been annihilated before. And now that I've been annihilated, I see what cannot be destructed in me. And then I think, okay, how else can I be annihilated? I'm not willing more annihilation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, right. But for the first time in my life, and I'm 45 tomorrow, I feel like when I am inevitably annihilated again, it won't feel great. It's going to be so scary and so hard and so painful in whatever weird way it will be. But now for the first time, I know that it will also reveal what is indestructible in me. And I'm really excited to continue meeting her.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
46?
Tomorrow.
45. Oh, 45 is tomorrow. Okay. Yes. I'm 48. Let me tell you, this is the best time. These next 3 years, just constant annihilation. Just you
bring it
wait.
on. I mean, don't bring it on, but bring it on, I guess, if you're gonna do it.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But that's the interesting thing. We can live our lives in such fear. And when we turn that around, our lives become much richer.
Yeah, and I think that and I don't have a religion. I'm not seeking one. I don't need to name or label this or do anything beyond the rituals that I've created and that I love for myself. And the beliefs that I have are wide open. And I love that too. Right now I've been exploring A Course in Miracles. Have you ever looked into A Course in Miracles?
Absolutely.
It's great. It's the idea that, and this is not a new idea, that this is all a dream. It's all a dream. Again, not a new idea, but it takes it to the extreme. And the famous quote from A Course in Miracles, it starts with, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." And so when I get worked up about this dream I'm in, and I've forgotten that I'm dreaming, sometimes the miracle, by the way, isn't turning water into wine or getting my dog to stop barking at the delivery person. The miracle is remembering that this is a dream. And if I'm wrong, oh well, at the end of it, oh well. But if I'm right,
sure.
I mean, to me, this kind of checks out. If this is a dream, that doesn't make it meaningless. It doesn't make it feel less real. But knowing that the real me is in a larger place checks out. Something in my heart says, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, a place so large. The real me is in a place so large that it's almost placeless.
That's right.
And that's what is indestructible in all of us. Thank you.
Well done. You landed that plane, Jeffrey.
It's a love. Thank you. It's my job. Love talking to you.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh.
I know I did land the plane, but to lift off again for just a moment, what are you working on? What do you want the people to know about? Where shall they find you? Those questions.
Well, we've got ctpublic.org/audacious. If you look up my name, I know you're like thinking, how do I spell this? Well, it's probably in the title of your show or in the description of your show. So look me up. I'm on all the socials. Some shows that we're working on I'm really excited about right now are Singing Telegrams. I talk with Joy Brooker, who's probably the most viral singing telegram. I would love to hear her on your show, by the way. Joy Brooker. Just a bright light. Because to be a singing telegram, there's something in your system that has to either click very much on or very much off in order for you to do it. And I think I want to tap into that. So that's a show we're working on. We're also working on the bad episode of Audacious. I interviewed the co-creators of the Razzies, which are like the anti-Academy Awards for worst films. And I interviewed a guy named John Breaks Bad News, and his whole job, and he makes a very good living at this, is he's paid to call and deliver bad news to people. And it is fascinating. So those are two shows we're working on now.
Sometimes we have to deliver bad news. But it's bad news to the ego structure.
Always. 100% of the time.
It's a good thing we do it with verve, talent, and charm. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Until part 2 next time.
Beautiful.
See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Peace.
What a beautiful person and what a beautiful moment in our lives.
That was the most... Well, I don't want to say most is a comparative word. That was very deep and real, and I'm very honored that she let us in like that. That was remarkable.
Mm-hmm. I think I did say in the intro, you don't get any good stuff without being vulnerable. So let us all be a bastion of what it's like to get the good stuff in our vulnerability. You have a trivia question for me?
I do. Insert trivia here.
Trivia!
Jeffrey Marsh.
Uh-huh.
According to a survey, what percentage of people believe they're good listeners, yet only retain half about what? Yet only retain about half of what they hear. Let me do that again.
Yes.
According to a survey, our source is Psychology Today, the publication Psychology Today. According to a survey, what percentage of people believe they're good listeners, yet only retain about half of what they hear?
This is so interesting because obviously there's that phenomenon where people are not expert enough to know that they're not an expert sometimes. And so I think more people believe they're good listeners than actually are, which is what this comment is suggesting. So I'm going to say people who believe they're good listeners, 50-50, but it's actually not even that high.
That's interesting. How many conversations have you been in, no shade, where you can tell the other person already has their point prepared before they've actually listened to you? Like you can see it on their eyes and their body language. You can tell that they're ready to jump on you before you've actually finished. Therefore, they're not actually even listening. Does that happen to you often? Because
90%.
90%? Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Where I'm like, wait, is this a conversation or is this rehearsed? Do you want to sound smart? Do you want to talk to me? Is this transactional? Is this real? That happens to you a lot, you said.
Uh-huh. And generally, I to be gracious about it, I just assume people are in the habit of needing to prove something. So they go immediately to that. But it's really wonderful to be, the Jeffrey in that scenario because we have our techniques to undermine that, don't we? And have real connections. And welcome back. I understand we have a question from our amazing, wonderful, vulnerable, exciting community. Hit it, jeffreymarsh.com. Be in that community.
That was my cue. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so
hit it.
So this is our question from the Discord, right? Every week, the members of the Discord are told what the episode context is or what the topic of the episode is, and they get to write in if they have a question pertaining to that episode, right? So this is directly for somebody who asked this question, and they have chosen this week to remain anonymous. This lovely person says, Jeffrey, I'm always planning the next question. Oh, here we go. I'm always planning the next question while someone's talking. How do I stay present and ask better questions without listening with my notepad in my head? That I did not ask you what I asked you with this in mind, even though I made this outline. Yeah. This just kind of happened. Yeah, so this person is one of those people who needs help with this.
Great. So I'll give everybody the deepest, most practical, spiritual answer. Every single damn thing you'll ever do comes back to acceptance. We want to introduce tension. I do X behavior and I must not do X behavior. So now I've got to fight to not do X behavior. But the only answer to everything is acceptance. And if you are able to accept, it sounds like they're close, actually, the person asking this question, and knowing our community, they're close and have been looking. If you are close to fully accepting that you are programmed this way, that you operate this way, that you do this with your notepad, you can begin to observe. But if you are observing with a scrap of self-hate, you're already off the rails. You need to get present, become fully accepting, treat yourself in a loving manner. This is why I do the work I do. Treat yourself in a loving manner and fully accept that the pattern is here and real, and begin to observe from there. And then it'll be clear what to do to not do it anymore. Easy as pie.
I'm Chion Wolf, host of Audacious. The conversations I have with my guests are a constant reminder that bold questions can bring us together. Listen to this observation from Rose Marie Wallace.
How cool that every day you get to redefine Audacious. Sometimes it's through somebody else's eyes and ears, and sometimes it's through your own.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app.
So there's the bookend to the trivia. And that's what keeps them listening on the edge of the seat.
It would also be remiss in the episode about questions to not answer the question. It would, I mean, it might be ironic. It might be
deep.
It might be deep to be like, let's leave it hanging. But I do have an answer. So maybe that's better. Maybe that's more satisfying.
Oh, you recall the question and I'll recall my answer afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. So the question is, according to a survey from Psychology Today, what percentage of people believe they're good listeners, yet only retain about half of what they hear? And you said
50-50.
You ready for this?
What?
The percentage of people who say they're good listeners, who claim this is a trait of theirs, 96% of people say they are good listeners, but studies show we retain just half of what we hear. Let's unload that
I can't
bucket.
speak.
Let's unload. No, so you were very
Yes.
eloquent to redirect me away from judgment, and I'm grateful for that, and I see that. Because I was a little saucy when I said before, oh, do you know people who like to interrupt you when you're asking questions, who already have their answer prepared, whatever. But it seems like this is a real human thing, and maybe #Taylor Swift, maybe me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Maybe I'm also not a good listener, but I claim I am. 96% is the majority of the adult population whatever the survey size is. That's remarkable.
Right. And what I love about the trivia question and the answer is that it was very number detail oriented. So 96% retain only half, right? So we're assuming that to retain more would be more in line with their ideas of themselves as a good listener. And maybe that's true. What's interesting to me about it is when that inner voice is speaking to you, you're listening to it and not the person in front of you. That to me is what's written all over this particular question. When we are in conversation, we're generally listening to a voice. The whole experience of being a human is filtered through this thing that hates us. And we're spending our time with it. And that's why only 50% gets retained. That's what I guess is going on for most people. So undermine self-hate and you'll solve this problem. You'll truly become a good listener. Magic. Well, it's time to say goodbye, but only for a moment, only for a little while, because we'll have our next episode next week. But know that I love you. And I just want to give you a couple of reminders before we say goodbye. In conversation, in relationships, a question isn't just a pathway to the answer. It's a pathway to connection, and therefore like a, horseshoe, boomerang. It's a pathway to understanding yourself. Understanding humanity, but of course you're human too. So when you shortchange connections, you're shortchanging you and shortchanging your connection with you. But also, listening deeply isn't passive. It's like people who say, oh, meditation, that's so boring. It's like, you haven't done much meditation, have you? Listening deeply isn't a passive act. It's brave. It's declarative. It's takes focus. And it takes practice, and that's okay. So, very last thing, and our very last tradition we like to do together, close your eyes. As you sit with what you've learned today, what you've seen, the wisdom that came to you today, can you become a good listener to yourself? It's okay if you're driving, your eyes need to be open, you need to be in the world somewhat. Just bring your attention inward and see if there's something that your psyche, your soul, your heart has been dying to tell you that you ought to listen to. Take 2-3 breaths to give yourself space to listen to the answer. And then one more deep, satisfying, full breath in. And as you exhale, get ready to go back into the world, to lift your spirit, to lift the spirits of others. I care so much about you. Take good care of yourself. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. This has been Inner Voice with Jeffrey Marsh. Today's episode was produced by Zach Latino. If you're ready to go deeper, transform your life, and experience personalized support, my one-on-one coaching sessions can be applied for at jeffreymarsh.com. Know someone perfect for Inner Voice? Send them our way. Have them visit jeffreymarsh.com to sign up for our exclusive online community, and we'll reach out if their inquiry aligns with an upcoming episode. Remember, you are worthy exactly as you are. See you next time.